Can you chat?
Always. Howdy.
I was trying to think of another way to say hi, but sayonara is the only thing that came to mind.
That's goodbye. You can say that at the end.
What's another way to say hi?
Hola. Hello. Welcome.
That would go
Bienvenidos.
with sayonara.
Not sure what language that is, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well,
Howdy.
welcome.
Bienvenidos. God. We did so many things this weekend, but also Biden dropped out of the race, so there's like nothing else to talk about.
I know. It's like really feels like nothing else is important, but other things are important in that one of our like really good friends had
Twins.
I was going to say a baby, but actually two babies.
Two little babies.
And I just can't care about anything else.
I mean, it is hard because they're so cute and squishy, and they're like the perfect size baby. They've got like, you can tell they're going to get rolls, which I love.
You can tell that in advance.
Yeah, because like twins sometimes are small. They are average size, which is such a blessing.
Yeah, they're like each 6 pounds.
Yeah, they're like the regular old size.
Yeah, they're very cute. I love looking at things on a little baby newborn infant that's like, oh, is this how it's going to be? Like one of them had really long fingers.
Yeah, you kept saying she was going to play the piano, which feels like a big expectation to put on a small baby.
Maybe she could play the piano, but our friend also has really long fingers. And so I was like, oh my God.
See, I'm the opposite. I like looking at their really tiny features and being like, oh my God, this is going to get so much bigger. Like I was looking at they're fraternal twins, boy and a girl, and I was holding her son for a little bit. And I'm sure they both have very small ears, but her daughter was wearing a hat and he wasn't. And so his ears were so small.
Tiny ears.
And I was like, oh my God, you have the world's smallest ears. And they're going to...
Is this some sort of record for tiny ears?
You have the tiniest ears.
Yeah, they're so cute and so squishy.
And everyone's doing great. And I brought spicy margaritas to the hospital.
Yes.
Which I promised her I would do. But she obviously couldn't partake because she was on pain medication.
She's like, can you mix Oxy and tequila? And that's a big no-no, apparently.
I don't know a lot about pharmacology, but I know that one's a no.
Yeah, so we and her husband cheers with our margaritas.
We offered some to her doctor when he came in, and he was very sad to say no.
Yeah, he was like, I wish that I could, but
I'm on the hospital's time.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you know how they say like once you have a baby and it's obviously like the worst thing that's ever happened to your body unless you've been hit by a truck and dragged 100 miles down a pebbly highway. That you forget about it.
You don't
with
for some reason.
Distance. Mine is fresh in my mind.
I think that's a choice you're making, though. I think you wake up every day and relive the pain so that you don't forget it.
No, I actually don't even really ever think about it because I don't want to. And then when it comes back to me, I'm like, oh, and this is exactly what happened because it was so horrible.
Traumatic. It all screaming right back to me. Yeah.
Like even when we were saying, because she had a C-section and she was like, it was worse than I thought it was going to be. And she thought it was going to be pretty bad. You're numb from, whatever, the chest down or wherever they numb you. And so you're thinking like, oh, you're just laying there like you're at a spa, but you're actually not laying there like you're at a spa. She said you can like really feel them like digging around in your abdomen and like pushing.
Okay, we got it.
And pulling. And so like...
We should have put a trigger warning at the front of this.
Yeah, for all of those weak motherfuckers.
I'm actually not as worried about childbirth as I maybe should be because you guys all make it sound like the worst possible thing ever.
I can't sugarcoat hell.
But I do think I have a higher pain tolerance than the average bear.
Than me?
I don't know. I think your biggest mistake was that you refused to go to the hospital. So you went to the hospital 12 centimeters dilated.
It wasn't a refusal. They tell you like, do not come until your contractions are this far apart because they will just send you home. So like you'll be like riding in the car when really you could like take a shower and like get things organized at home, like whatever. And having been my first experience with childbirth, they tell you like, oh, so time your contractions. Download this app, get a contraction timer, and when your contractions are, a minute and a half apart, I can't remember what it was, but it's not a perfect science, which no one told me. So like maybe you have like I would have one and then like 45 seconds, another one would start. And then like 2 minutes later, another one. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Take the average of a half hour?
Lie and go. And I kept saying that, honestly. I remember that morning so vividly. I was on the phone with you and you were like, so yeah.
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
You texted and you were like, I think I'm gonna have to go to the hospital. I wake up. I'm like looking at my phone. I call you. I'm like, what's going on? You're like, yeah, so we're gonna wait. I'm like, I really think you should go. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna wait. You're dilly-dallying around your house. Finally, at like 5:30, I turned to Tyler. I'm like, I'm driving over there. I met you in the garage. Do you remember that? I was like, what are you doing still here? And you were like, oh, we're just now going. I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, again, they are like, please do not come over.
And for the first time in your life, you decided to follow a rule.
Because I was like, if I have to sit in the car and go there and then just like wait in the car, I'd rather just like lay in the fetal position on the floor of my bedroom.
Sure.
But I mean, at that point, I was vomiting incessantly.
It's a fond memory, honestly.
So yeah, it does live right there in my mind, right on the surface.
Our friend was even saying yesterday, she's like, I already feel like I have a little distance from it. And you go, not me. I was like, oh my God.
No, like because she was saying it was worse than she thought it was going to be. And I was like, well, good thing you had twins. That it can be, if you don't want to do this again, then you're done. And she was like, I'm hoping that like with a little distance, maybe I'll be. And she was like, I already honestly feel like I have some distance from it. Like maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. And I was like, oh, it's the first day.
She's a soldier.
It's one day later. Like I was like, not me. It's still
You're going to be one of those moms who's like, I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it. And let me tell you, it was hard.
No, like it was waiting. Obviously, you don't know that how quickly labor is going to progress.
Next time, will you go faster?
Next time, I want to be induced so that I can just like have an epidural early on. By the time I got there, being like almost fully dilated, like I was like basically just like no drugs at all.
Raw dogging it, yeah. Well, you know more, you do better. That's what I always say.
So yeah, I was thinking about how I was actually telling my parents how like her experience, whatever. She's having a C-section and like is so uncomfortable and like not in pain, but like in a different kind of pain and like, puking in a bucket while her children are coming into the world. Like it's horrible. And then, the husband is just sitting there with a hairnet and a mask, smiling widely.
She said her husband, quote, entered the OR like a celebrity.
Yeah, he's waving to his fans.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I've been filleted.
Yeah, she's laying there. And by the time they let him come in, like after everything was like, sterilized and whatever, he's in his scrubs. He walks in and he's just smiling, waving at the surgeons.
She's like,
she was like, okay. Yeah, it's just like it's literally not fair. And my mom was saying that back in the day, people used to have C-sections way more often because like if a baby was breech, they didn't really know how to like turn the baby at all or safely. And so they were just like, oh, it's breech. We're going to have to do a C-section. And I was like, what they figured out now is that the doctor can shove his entire fist up your vag and turn the baby manually. Like that's what turn the baby means.
Yeah.
It means reaching elbow deep.
I understand. We definitely need to put a trigger warning on this.
For who?
I don't know.
This is what women have to deal with every day.
I understand.
Even we were talking about, our friend was saying like, she was like, yeah, but there was something with like our blood types and I had to have a shot in my ass like give me a fucking break with women's health care. It's just like, oh, you know what? We did figure out how to turn the baby. I'm just going to reach all the way up to my armpit and grab the baby's butt and turn them so that they're not breech anymore. It's like, oh, modern medicine.
I mean, in their defense, I don't know what else they would do. Like, it's not like there's an AI alternative. Like, just think that the baby's turning, and honestly, Elon Musk probably will do something like that.
Probably.
Like, there is nothing else. Like, the baby physically, it's not like you can be like, go to the left, little baby. Like, you, like something.
Oh, is there not like a mantra we can say? Left, baby, left, baby.
Left, baby. Just really center yourself, do yoga.
Yeah, so again, it's insane what we have to go through. We're soldiers and heroes.
Not me yet, but one day, hopefully. Would you like me to do an icebreaker?
I would love that.
Okay, great. Describe yourself, like not like for an interview. Like I don't need like, your greatest strengths. What is like a legitimate description of yourself? One sentence or less.
To who am I describing?
Just
someone
like,
who doesn't know me?
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be serious. Not like a hard worker. Like I'll give you an example.
Please do.
Mine is an anxiety-ridden, funny, likable but sometimes annoying girl.
Okay.
Who doesn't know when to shut the fuck up.
Oh, yours has a semicolon in it.
But also is really sweet.
So it's a few sentences.
I mean, but I was just going off the cuff.
You ride your funny label hard. If that were ever taken from you, like,
who the fuck would take it from me?
I'm just saying,
the
you're
funny
like,
god?
I'm extremely funny. Like,
no, I'm not extremely funny. I would love to be extremely funny, but I'm more than your average bear.
I think you just, you know what I really think it is?
No, don't tell me because it's going to be mean. Okay, tell me.
I think you grew up, like, your family, love your family and friends.
Sure.
Great friends.
Just going to roast them in a second. Hold on.
I think you grew up around a bunch of people who just, like, weren't themselves that funny. Like, they have an appreciation for humor, but they weren't funny. And so you were literally like a rose in a sea of dandelions, funny wise. And then you got to the real world and met, like, a lot of other roses and even some, like, orchids.
We're all, but like a rose is still a rose if you call it by any other name or some other shit. Like, what's that say? Like,
or some shit.
Like, I'm still a rose.
But I'm just saying, like, then you came and you met, like, bouquets of roses and you were like,
I'm sorry, you the bouquet in the story? I'm trying to, like, place myself in the story.
I think I'm more of, like,
oh, but you're funnier.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear. So
I wouldn't say I'm a bouquet of roses, but, like, I'm the funniest flower.
Okay. And modest. So that's your sentence. The funniest flower.
I just think, like, you then got to the real world and you were like, I'm sorry, are people funny on here?
So
do you agree? Really think about it.
So you think I'm a single rose? I just want to clarify.
In a sea of dandelions, funny wise.
But I'm just one. I couldn't even be like a trio, like in a bud vase or something.
But you're in a, like, single dandelions surround you as a child.
I think I am significantly funnier than the average bear. I would agree with myself.
And I would agree with myself on that one.
Robert's rules. I second that motion.
Yeah, I just think, like, I mean, and, you know, your grandparents, both amazing people, God rest both of their souls, not hilarious.
But that's what I'm saying. Most of America is an average bear.
No, I don't, like, I have a funny family.
Oh.
Do you agree?
I do. My family's getting...
Except one outlier who I won't name her.
Your poor mom.
And my grandma was funny as shit.
Yes, agreed.
I just have, like, a funny family. So, like, if I could...
And your parents would agree that I'm funny. So there we have it. Yes.
Okay.
You don't think your parents would say that I'm funny?
I'll ask. Let me ask.
This is uncomfortable for people now. I don't want to bring them into our fight.
We're not going to ask my mom because she has such a low bar.
Oh, God. I was hoping you were just going to text. Wow, that is so awkward.
This man never answers.
He answered me earlier.
He sends me right to voicemail.
Call your brother.
We'll have to cut that. Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm upset. He's going to say no, and it's scary, too.
Hello.
Hi, quick question. We're recording the podcast, and you have to give your honest answer. Do you think that Jonna is funny?
Definitely.
Damn, really? But not funnier than any of us.
Rachel just said, I was a rose in a sea of dandelions of funny, but she, thankfully for all of us, is a bouquet of roses.
No, that's not what I said.
I think being funny is a spectrum. There are a lot of things that make
it's like autism.
Funny, and Jonna is definitely just like autism. And Jonna is definitely funny.
She's high on the autism spectrum.
In terms of, like, is she crafting jokes and zingers funny like how I think of you? No, not the same. But I do think Jonna's ability to, like, interpret the world, recognize something is weird or interesting or ironic or whatever, and spin it into a funny anecdote. Yes, I think she's very good at that and very funny.
Well,
all right.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you. God damn it.
Well, that worked out swimmingly well.
But at the end of the day, he did say I was funnier.
We're going to cut that.
Okay, major cut. Edit out that entire phone call.
No. We keep the phone call right before he says you're funnier. Anywho's, do you have a sentence for us or what, my little bouquet? I'm only calling you my little bouquet from now on.
A little sentence to describe me. I would say pretty funny, Considerate, loyal, protective
Beach.
peach.
I said beach.
Not the same.
Sure, we can go with beach.
Oh yeah, I said peach, not beach.
What if I was like, oh, God.
And did I include funny?
Yes.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, Rue. What's up?
I just had a quick question. Would you say, just generally speaking, that Jonna's funny?
That Jonna's funny?
Yeah.
Yes, I would put Jonna in the funny category.
But not that funny?
Oh my God, you can't coach people to the answer you want.
All right. Okay, I've got to go. Thank you for your answer.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Both will remain. Both phone calls.
And now both will remain.
You know who's not remaining?
Biden.
That's true.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that.
Let's just dive in because it's the only thing outside of our friends' babies we can think about.
Okay, so we were actually having dinner. We were sitting outside having dinner on Saturday. And talking about, like, is he or is he not going to drop out? And I was like, it just feels like, and I think Biden's a great guy, but I'm just going to say it feels like wishful thinking for the Democrats to think he's going to drop out only because, like, he has said so many times, like, I'm sticking with it. This is my choice. I don't want to be a one-term president, et cetera, et cetera. And we've been hoping that he would drop out, but it was seeming not so likely. So yeah, we were discussing, and I was just kind of like, we've been saying, like, if he was going to drop out, why didn't he drop out, like, after, maybe not after the debate, but then after his interview with George Stephanopoulos? And, like, even that was, like,
Rocky.
But then he did say the only thing that will make me drop out is if I'm, like, diagnosed with some sort of medical condition that will prevent me from serving a second term, I will of course drop out. Or if I'm presented with hard-hitting evidence that says I have no chance of winning for the Democratic Party in this election. And I think the latter happened.
You think he wasn't diagnosed? You think he was given hard-hitting evidence?
Yes.
I think he was diagnosed. And maybe he also got hard-hitting. I really do think he's not well.
Just because, like, I think he's old and, you know, he's in, like, cognitive decline, as any person at that age might be. And I think the polling was not going his way, really, in any way. Like, there's so many different paths to win the election, and I think it was like there's like maybe one path that he could win based on the polls. Mm-hmm. And Kamala was polling better than him, a couple points above even. And I think he was like, okay, well, I have to bow out. And my brother was actually saying this earlier. Like, it's not, I mean, it's only been a couple days or a day. It's only been a day.
Oh my God. It feels like it's been a week. Holy shit.
It really isn't being talked about right now, which hopefully it will be, that this is such a big, it really is like a noble and somewhat like heroic.
Selfless. It's a selfless thing to do. Like, I think politicians are typically so narcissistic. You kind of have to be. It's like that God complex.
Yes, that's what he said. He was like, in like, not Joe specifically, but like just politicians in general are normally like egotistical maniacs who like are like, and I am strong enough and smart enough and have enough leadership qualities to lead an entire nation. Like, you have to have some inflated sense of self, and to be like, it's better for the people and for the party that I not do this anymore, really is something to recognize and celebrate.
Totally. And admire and say, like, you really do. A leader in a perfect scenario does put the people they're leading above themselves. And I don't think that's really a presidential quality. I think a lot of our presidents are, even the greatest of them, are doing it to serve some part of their own ego. And I think says a lot about him. Like, he's just a nice fucking guy who was a great president when we needed a great president and now needs to step down.
Agreed. And also, like, hasn't really gotten the recognition. Like, he has gotten a lot done.
Yeah.
And I think like because he was president during such a divisive time that it's not like the country's rallying, you know, like even like Clinton had a lot of conservative supporters as well. And so like the stuff that Clinton got done, like they're like, oh, he was actually a good president until whatever. So it's a tough time to be the president because you're not going to get love from...
The haters are loud.
Yes. Loud haters. I was just going to read what this means. Basically, it says, of course, after the debate, everyone was kind of like...
Yeah.
Whoa. He was pressured to do it. Obviously, he didn't want to. In the meantime, many Democrats, including former Presidents Clinton and Obama, are praising Biden's move to end his campaign. Not everyone has endorsed Kamala as their pick for the top of the ticket, but many people have, including the Clintons. Obama has yet to
say anything
yet, but my brother was saying that it's like he thinks maybe Obama like endorsing Kamala without like her doing any campaigning or anything, that because people are calling this a coronation.
Oh, because she's the heir to the throne.
Yes, like she's just next in line and she deserves it without any like
vetting.
Voice of the people.
I did think it was curious that Biden endorsed her before she'd announced her run.
I think, and I know that like, you know, Democrats everywhere are going to be like, take the good with the bad.
We cam. Have you seen those? Or we calm? We calm.
We calm?
Like, instead of we can, Kamala. So the signs are we KAM.
Oh, God, I hate that.
We calm.
Someone should tell the people on Fox News how to pronounce her name.
What do they call her?
Kamala.
I think that's purposeful.
That's what Mike said, too.
I do. I think
they like exclusively called her Kamala. And I was like...
I think it's like when you hate someone and you're like, Mike, is it? And they're like, it's Miles. And you're like, anywho, Mike. It's like, okay, fuck you.
So rude.
It's like a fuck you, I think.
It's like, it's not like Kamala or Kamala are that common of names, either one, where it's like, well, it's obviously pronounced
right
one way or the other. Like, you could just learn the correct way. But nonetheless, I do think that the way he announced this was a little like...
ass backwards.
Odd. Just like, not to like pick apart a good thing, but it was really weird how I felt it was weird that like it wasn't even a video message like recorded at home.
That's why I think he's not well. I think COVID was a ruse to keep him out of the spotlight for a minute and regroup.
I mean, his whole family did like go to wherever.
Camp David, I think.
No, this weekend?
Oh no, that was before.
They were all in Delaware.
Oh, maybe Delaware. Okay.
You know, to like talk or whatever, and you know, he was sick with COVID or whatever the fuck else he has, old age. Mm-hmm. And then he announced in this like Twitter or X
post and Instagram post,
but like not even like a, you know, put him in a suit and have him like say this at home and then like...
But look at how it's gone. Like the last 2 times, more than 2 times, the speech she gave.
If it's pre-recorded and it's just your staff at home, like it literally was like they had to like Weekend at Bernie's him.
But that's like...
That's what I was thinking they would do, because like that was kind of how it felt for like the debate. Weekend at Biden's. The
weekend at the Bidens. But I think they're just trying to get him through till January, because like I kind of thought would happen, the minute he doesn't run, people are now questioning his fitness to finish out the presidency.
Yes.
And so I think it's like a stop the bleeding situation, where the less they put him in front of a camera, the better off they are. I think they think. It's a lot of thinking, but that's what I think their plan is.
I just feel like we didn't hear from him in any way other than a written statement. And then like we didn't hear from her.
I don't know.
And it's like, guys, like it's like the founding fathers, you know, like, and we can only announce these things.
They're like, we want to do it how John Hancock would have written
I mean, we need some like more personal touches here in the Democratic Party.
I think truthfully, they're kind of not scrambling. That's not the right word, but I don't think this really fixes the divisiveness within the party, because I don't think Kamala is the clear choice for a lot of people.
An interesting point to that is that it's kind of like the Democrats don't really even have a choice. And the reason for that is that, like, she's the VP, so she does have the most, like, recent experience being close to the president than anyone else in the party. And the only reason that we wouldn't go with her, because she does have a strong political background, she was a prosecutor,
Right,
like
no.
she has the tools in her toolbox. The only reason we would not use her is she's a woman and she's black.
Yeah, it's the minority and the woman thing, which I don't agree with. I wish we lived in a different fucking world, but I worry that there are still some fucking losers who aren't going to vote that way.
No, I 100% agree, but to just skip over her and say, like, oh, well, she's not going to be our nominee is only acknowledging those things that we can't use her because she's a woman and she's black. And for people who won't vote for a minority, or people who are just those people who are like, oh, well, I don't know why I feel this way, but I just don't feel confident with a female president. Like, those people, those are the people who we're worried about.
But we're already worried about those people voting for Trump regardless.
Correct.
So I guess that's kind of a wash. My whole thing, which we were talking about the other day, is I don't feel like the Biden administration did her any favors by kind of keeping her in the background for so long. Like, I think middle America didn't get to know her at all. Like, unless you were politically engaged and, like, really seeking out what was going on with the vice president, she was in the far back.
Well, vice presidents, like, you know, kind of have their own, like, agenda that they want to work on, whatever. And hers initially was immigration.
Right.
And she didn't do so great with the, you know, first couple action items on her agenda. And instead of, like, you know, her doing a couple interviews and staying front and center, they just sort of, like, buried her.
Yeah, and it was like,
for a long time, it was like, is Kamala alive?
There does have to be a better tagline than "we calm," because I'm confused. Is it "we cam" or "we calm"?
Kamala.
So it's "we calm."
Yes, we come.
Yeah, it just, like, doesn't roll off the tongue.
It's like saying in a Bahamian accent.
We come. Her dad's Jamaican. I think her dad's Jamaican.
Well, maybe that's why it's that.
It's not.
Oh. I was like, that's sort of nice. So yeah, so we're kind of in a rock and a hard place, because if we were to just skip right over her, it'd be like, oh, well, we don't feel confident in that, you know, either. So, and it's bad optics.
I understand that, but it really does feed my concerns before that, like, this isn't a monarchy and, like, it doesn't need to be the heir.
Right.
Like, just because the VP could run for president, it's not like Cheney ever, like, everyone was like, well, it should be Cheney.
Yeah.
We don't live in that sort of environment. It's not like there's a hierarchy unless, God forbid, something were to happen to the president. So to just assume that the VP is the candidate, that's not really how it works.
A couple other interesting points, I think. One being that the RNC has already happened.
Yeah.
And again, the Republican voters were, like, feeling really confident
Coming off Biden and the
coming
convention.
Off Biden's weird, upsetting debate performance, and then the attempted assassination. Like, the RNC was like a celebration of, like,
life and Trump.
Yes.
I interestingly can't wait for a Kamala Trump debate.
Oh, me too.
Because she is fucking quick.
Yeah.
She's sharp. And he was able to run circles around Biden because he just made more sense than Biden. It wasn't that he made sense. It was just the bar was so fucking low for, like, reasonable thoughts that he came out looking like a winner, where Kamala's an actually articulate, intelligent woman and he's a fucking lunatic. So,
well, also they spent the entire RNC talking about how, like, you know, Biden hasn't done anything, shit talking Biden, saying he's so old, how could anyone vote for him, whatever. And so, like, now that convention is over,
right?
And all of those points that were really hit home to
make him a stronger candidate against Joe.
Yes, it's like their opportunity to do that with Kamala has passed. So yeah, obviously a lot more is going to come out. Is Biden even still alive is one of the major questions I have. And I think a lot of the election results will depend on who Kamala picks as her running mate.
1,000,000,000%. Because that is really where, with every candidate, but that's really where anyone who's like doubting her or like not sure she's ready, blah blah blah, whoever she picks, if that beefs her up, she could be unstoppable.
I mean, can you imagine if she picked like a moderate Republican as her running mate?
What if she picked like a full-blown Republican? It's like the two sides, because there's Republicans who fucking hate Trump.
I would actually love that, just like if it was someone who she could really work with and they could, in a real actual sense, work together to get shit done. Then like you actually are uniting the country,
Which would be amazing. Oh my God, can you imagine the movie about that?
well, if the American government is listening,
Hello, it's us.
we have an idea.
We have a podcast. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be interesting to see who she picks. I don't know. I mean, I will say I have more hope. Prior to this, I was feeling pretty hopeless about the Democratic potential at winning, but I don't know. I still don't feel great until we know who the VP is. Speaking of fucked up things in our country, I've already been feeling anxious for years, as I've expressed to you, about how like social media affects young children and like their body image and like the tweeting and the texting and the Instagramming, whatever. But I found this article. Did you see that Alabama Barker, she's Travis Barker's daughter, she's only 18. She's a 100% normal, average size girl. She's beautiful. Seems like a very happy, normal kid. Apparently she's admitted that she's on a weight loss drug because she's, quote, tired of looking like an ogre. And all of the comments on her Instagram page are always calling her fat. And this is actually one of the saddest parts. She said she sees what they see, even though that's not really what she, quote, looks like. She feels like she doesn't photograph well. And so she's on a weight loss drug.
That's so sad.
It's so sad.
She sees what they see.
Yes. And first of all, she's like now adjacent to the Kardashians. I wish someone in that family could like build her up.
Yeah. What about like...
I'm surprised. I mean, I guess Courtney's not her biological mom, so she doesn't really have a say. But
well, not have a say, but she's hopefully a positive influence in her life.
I just feel like she's so...
Just because you're not a biological mom doesn't mean...
But I mean...
Stepmoms everywhere are like, fuck off.
I know, I think she should, but I'm saying she can't decide if she takes a drug or not. Like, if her mom and dad both say it's fine. Well, actually, she's 18, so she doesn't need any parental consent, but... I read it and it made me so sad. Not that there'd be any reason that I would want an 18-year-old child to feel like they need to be on that, but like I would understand more if they've been bullied for a long time or they are experiencing obesity or like overweight. She's just literally a normal sized girl. So I'm like, how the fuck did she even get approval to be on this drug?
Yeah, that's extremely sad. And I would hope that if the Kardashians are your
in-laws, step family,
step aunts,
yeah, stance,
yeah, then like they should be like, girl,
don't do this.
You look amazing.
But also, I feel like Chloe is like the
poster child
for like body image issues.
Totally.
So I don't know if, now thinking through it, if she's like the strongest.
Also, I don't really know how much interaction she has with them.
Yeah. I just, in general, it made me sad because I think she's not the only.
She's 18.
She's 18.
Ugh.
But she's not the only, like, I don't feel like she's the exception. I feel like if she's coming out and saying this is probably a lot more prevalent than we think. Weight loss drugs have gotten to be so popular, and like that's my worst nightmare, that like totally healthy average girls are able to get access to them, because once you start taking that and like you keep needing to get thinner and thinner and thinner, it's like that fucks up your brain because you don't really see yourself the way you are.
Yeah.
So upsetting. Did you watch that TikTok video that I sent you?
Not the entire thing because it was a lot of parts, but yeah. I sort of did.
I was scrolling on TikTok and I get sucked into these TikToks all the time, but this one was actually so fucking interesting. So this girl lives in a downtown area of a college town. She's a law student, and she started renting this apartment right after she got out of undergrad. So she went and toured places. A property manager showed her the place. He was like, hey, this unit's owned by a private owner. He likes to do everything via Venmo, but like, I'll be your point of contact. I'll, give your application. If you get accepted, you'll just go ahead and Venmo him everything and we'll get going. She's like, great, love the place. So he emails her. He's like, congrats, the place is yours. All you need to do is Venmo the owner your security deposit and your first month's rent. And then I'll reach out to you and we'll set up a time to exchange the keys. She's like, great. This is over a year ago. She gets the email address for the Venmo from him. He sends it to her. She enters it in Venmo. She sends her first month's rent and the security deposit and then texts the property manager and it's like, hey, I sent it. He's like, great. Let's meet up for the keys. She gets the keys. He's like, the unit's yours, rent's due on the first of the month, continue to send your rent to the same account that I sent you every month. She's like, perfect. Her lease started last July. In April, they reach out to her and they're like, hey, are you re-signing your lease? She's like, yeah, I love it here. I want to. They're like, great. She gets a text from the property manager who's like, hey, your check for $7,200 bounced. Can you update us on how you're going to update on that payment? And she responds and she's like, I don't send a check. I've never written a check.
Also, my rent isn't $75.
My rent is like $1,300. She was like, I Venmo. He was like, oh, the owner's like really bad about his financing, your finances
good.
staying organized. I'll check. He probably has you confused. She's like, okay. So he texts her back. He's like, yep, as I thought. That was someone else. No big deal. She's like, phew, great. A few hours later, she gets another text and he's like, hey, so the owner said you have not paid rent ever.
Ever?
And she's like, ever? No, I pay it every month. So she goes into her Venmo, opens up all the transactions with, David Michael 2Ls 107 and screenshots every single month that she like sends it very diligently to the account. The property manager texts back. He's like, oh, as I suspected. So sorry. He's disorganized. I'll pass this along. She's like, great. Weird again, but fine. Texts her back like a couple days later. And he's like, hi, so I sent that to the owner and you entered his username wrong. His username is actually David Michael with 3 L's 107.
But what I thought was interesting was like, let's say the guy's name, the owner of the apartment was like David Michael 107 on Venmo. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yep, send it to my username here on Venmo. Just as an aside, did he give her the wrong username?
No,
she typed
it in wrong by one letter.
Yes. Okay. So he's like, send it to David Michael. And like he sends it to her.
Yep.
But his username is David Michael with 2 L's.
Yeah.
107. And so when she goes to Venmo him, she types in David Michael, the normal spelling, not 2 L's, 107.
Yeah.
And every month has been paying David Michael.
Yep.
The regular one.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is at this point May. So she has been sending the wrong person on Venmo at this like stage in the game almost $18,000. And he's been accepting it and depositing it. So she reaches out to the wrong David Michael. We've made up this name, but she reaches out to him and is like, hey, not sure why you accepted this money. I've been sending you a Venmo every month that says like in the message, my address and rent, but I need it back. So he immediately Venmos her back like the most recent payment of $1,300 and is like, can I have your phone number to call? She's like, okay. He calls her and he's like, so this account is given access to a lot of people in my family. And I think my sister, who's a drug addict, has been depositing the money and has taken it. So I don't have it.
Oh, good.
And she was actually really funny. She was like, I don't know how much heroin costs, but like if it's $18,000, I'm flabbergasted. I was like, well, it is pretty pricey. So she had sent him $18,000. The owner was demanding she pay it or get evicted. She's a law school student, so she's like, I can't get evicted. So she was like, okay, I'm moving out. And basically is like in the midst of these like settlement agreements. She does agree that she owes the owner $18,000, but she can't get it to him any quicker than the heroin addict's brother is willing to pay. So she's like had to move out of her apartment and is getting money back monthly from that guy to pay to the owner monthly. And she had to find a new place.
Yeah, the crazy part of that story was, and I think it's just like interesting in the world today that like you pay rent sometimes with like Venmo or Zelle. Like that's how Mike and I paid rent for our townhouse. We Zelled him because it was just like we rented the townhouse from an owner. It's
Right.
not like a management company.
He doesn't want to pay the fees or like the credit card
Yeah,
processing
he's like,
fees.
send me your rent every month in Zelle. And it was like, oh, okay, great.
Cool.
Versus like when you and I lived in the apartment, we wrote a check.
Like a portal. Yeah.
When she's going to re-sign her lease, then the landlord is like, we haven't received rent from you. I think that's the fucked up part. Like, excuse me, could you have told me after month 1 that you didn't get it? And then I could have tracked down what the problem was.
That's kind of what her point was. She's like, you know what? If you told me when I texted you, hey, can I get the keys? Like, oh, we never received it. It'd be my fault. Like, I put it in the wrong name. And so if that guy never sent me the money back, I'm out $1,300.
Yeah.
And I'd eat it. But it's kind of your shitty bookkeeping that got us into this situation. Like, at a certain point, you forfeit the right to your money if you aren't even fucking tracking it.
Yeah, I agree. To then come back and say like, hey, you owe me $18,000. You haven't been paying rent. And she's like, I've been paying rent to this person. Yes, it's her fault. She typed it in wrong.
Totally.
But like to then come back after a year. I mean, I don't know what the law says about that, but.
So it was a whole thing. And it was just interesting because like, I have never had to Zelle or Venmo for
I know,
a bill.
you think that's like
and I would
crazy.
never do it, and I wouldn't have done it before, and now I wouldn't do it even more because there's not any like protection against it. Also, like there's no like this sort of thing happens. Like there's no rent paid like on this date, there's no tracking. It's just like you sent the money into the world. I wonder if you could call Venmo.
I don't think there's it's like account to account.
And there's no insurance on that money.
Yeah, like she sent it, he accepted, goodbye.
So fucking nuts.
But that is like, I feel like
technically that guy has no, I mean, it's nice of him that he's even offering to pay it back.
I don't know if that's true. Like if someone sent me $1,200 on Venmo from someone I didn't recognize, I don't think that I'm supposed to accept that. And I mean, I wouldn't, but like if I did and it went into my account, it would be like, well, that money wasn't for you, obviously.
I think morally you're correct. I would be curious about Venmo's rules. I think if you receive money, you're allowed to accept it.
It's like when you find money on the floor at a store,
yes,
you bring
should
it to the
put
front.
it. Yeah, you should put it into the lost and found. But like, there's no rule that
you're
have
not like,
to.
oh my God, I just found $300 in $100 bills.
Exactly. But like, if you did take it, there's no law against it. Finders keepers. Ever heard of it?
I know, but like, what if that were you?
I agree. I would feel too guilt-ridden. I called our insurance company today to make sure I wasn't committing insurance fraud. Like, I am a guilty bitch. All right, you got a daily dilemma for me?
Ooh, I do have a daily dilemma. This was sent in by one of our listeners. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase because...
Please do.
Yeah. So... she and her husband, they have 2 kids. They live in a neighborhood where like a bunch of people are their age and they get together a lot.
Yeah,
you would say?
Yeah, socially. That's what it sounded like.
And her and one of the neighbors have been saying it would be so fun to get all of the neighborhood together for a neighborhood hibachi night, which sounds fun.
Actually sounds fun. I wish they'd invite us.
Like... why aren't we invited to this hibachi night? Like bringing a hibachi chef to your house and having like a dinner at home, which is great. Fun. So her and this girl have been talking like, this sounds really fun, whatever. And let's call our listener Haley and her friend, the neighbor, Liz. Liz is the one who's like, yep, I'm going to host it. I'll have the chef come to my house, whatever. Everyone come over. She was kind of like, maybe it would be weird to do a hibachi night because we obviously can't invite every single neighbor to my house. Like we can only invite the people that we like.
Right.
Which is what you want.
Which is life.
With any party. Yes. Which is what you want to do in any party. Yeah. Like you want to invite the people that you like. And she's like, so maybe we just like shouldn't do it because not everyone can be invited. And then if people find out they weren't invited, it creates this weird like dynamic with our neighbors. Like you live next door to these people, whatever. But a caveat is that Liz in the neighborhood, a lot of her high school friends also live in the neighborhood. And so Haley is not part of her high school friend group in the neighborhood. She's just like a neighbor friend. She was like, I'm thinking maybe like I was the one kind of discussing the plan with Liz.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe she feels like I have to be invited to this when really now she's realizing she just wants it to be the houses that her high school friends live in.
Yeah.
And so should I or should I not text her and be like, do you want to uninvite us? Not in those words, but basically just send like a nice text that says like, we obviously would love to do it. It sounds fun, but if you guys just do it with your high school friends, we should do something else another night. Like, or should she just like leave it and go, or quietly cancel and be like, we actually can't come because because she thinks that it's a high school friend activity only. And it just made me think generally in a dilemma such as this, like social plans, if you think that you've only been invited because of like
obligation,
do you think most people sort of realize that, or they don't realize that? Like, I think if more people realize that, they wouldn't go to things.
I have the opposite approach. Like, people are so weird about groups and like including people. Like, if I was in that neighborhood and I never talked to these people and they had a group of people.
Yeah, I mean, why would I be invited to your hibachi night?
Like,
then?
if I like only talk to you once a month when I see you in passing and you have an hibachi night and you don't invite me, I'm like, that makes sense. I wouldn't invite you. I think people are so hung up on like everyone being included. It's like too far. And I don't understand that, because I don't want to be included in everything. Like, I've never once in my life felt like I wish more people would include me. I'm like, I wish less people would include me. Like, this feeling of like obligatory invites is just lost on me.
I 100% agree. We're like that. And obviously our listener understands that as well. Like, hey, I get it. It's looking like it's turning out to be like just your high school friends. And even though like this was something we had talked about doing, we could do something totally different.
I have the hibachi guy's number. I'll call all of my own.
I'll have a hibachi night with my friends and it'll just be, you know, a totally different thing.
Yeah. It's just, people are so fucking like, I don't know if it's like a desire to not be left out or just a desire to like feel like everyone's always included. I don't know which drives it. If it's like you wouldn't want to exclude anyone, so you don't want to be excluded, or what it is, but it's like it's gone too far.
You know, like when you're invited to like a distant cousin's wedding, like it's your mom's first cousin, but you know they never grew up near you and you don't know them at all, and then you're invited to the wedding. It's like they had to invite you because their parents said, well, so and so is my first cousin.
Yeah,
but you don't have to go to that, and I'm sure they don't give a shit whether you go or not.
But I do.
That's the kind of thing where I'm like, they don't care if we go. Why should we go?
But I will say, and your husband is having us all read this book that I just started called The Outliers for our book club.
Yep.
And it had I'm like listening to it and I'm like 40 minutes in, but it had an interesting perspective in the front that like this specific, did you read it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. For our listeners, it had a specific part in the beginning that basically said this whole community in Pennsylvania, the only reason that they could understand why they were so much healthier and happier than everyone else was like their sense of community, and that like extended families got together and they lived in multi-generational homes, and like they had this like deep sense of community amongst themselves. And that's where I do feel like it's important to engage with your extended family. Like, if everyone didn't go to things because they're the quote extended family, then it would just keep being smaller groups. Like, it just keep dwindling down. If none of your second and third cousins came to anything, because they're like, what the fuck does it matter? Then it's just your immediate family. And then you have kids, and then their community's smaller. Like, I'm not thinking to be best friends with your extended family, but I do think there is this, like, importance that we're starting to lose a little bit in, like, engaging with families.
I kind of think, like, for the original question, like, should I text and say, like, hey, I think it's nice to just, like, throw it out there, but this like neighbor of hers, Liz, the host, it's super shitty then to be like, yeah, bow out.
100%. Like,
I mean, like, yeah, you're right, it's looking like it's just gonna be high school people if we want to do something another time. Then it's like, I'm happy to offer, but that's bitchy. So like, I don't know if it's better to just be like, I was thinking like, it's a lot of people to have at your house, and maybe it would be more fun, like, you guys should just do something on Friday to just kind of like offer to bow out yourself.
Yeah.
And then say like, but I was thinking it would be really fun, like maybe there's a park in the neighborhood and like you hire like an ice cream truck to come to get all the kids together and like mingle with the parents.
Yeah, Haley can offer to not go and can just cancel. but the host cannot agree.
Yeah, totally.
'Cause you look
that
like
would
a
make
dick.
the host so shitty.
Like,
Like if she just said
You're
like,
right. I didn't want to invite you. Like, oh, okay.
if she just said like, you know, if you don't want us to come, that's totally fine. Then what is she supposed to say? Yeah, I didn't want you to come. I mean,
Nail
lose,
on the head.
lose. Yeah, lose.
How'd you know?
Were you getting that vibe? Because it's 100% accurate.
That's the vibe.
Did we answer the dilemma, do you think?
Yeah, I think if she wants to text, that's lovely and sweet, but it's really more she should text like, it's so nice that you invited us, we'll be there, like excited to be with all your high school friends, or we're not coming. Because just saying we don't have to come, common decency will say, of course, we want you there.
What you really have to think about though is, do you want to host something where people feel obligated to come, or like do you want to host something where people feel like it's like they're excited to be there?
I think there's always a sense of people being obligated to come.
We've got to get away from that.
Yes
except
and
in
no.
except in your scenario where you're like, go to everything for your third cousin and more.
No, I think you should. Obligation is good. It's healthy. Keeps the world going around.
Okay, we'll see.
I don't
Agree to
know.
disagree.
That's just my take. Let me keep reading the book. Maybe my mind will change.
I don't think it talks about that anymore in the book. To be honest.
Okay. Well, then that's my take. I was like, I left that chapter being like, fuck, I got to go to more things.
So yeah, that's the dilemma. To sum up what we've discussed today, key takeaways: women are heroes,
Yep.
and we go
Including
to
Kamala.
including Kamala, and we go to a lot of things that we don't want to be at
Because we're soldiers.
because we're soldiers in this world, including our own children's births. We have to go to those too.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to go to yours.
No.
Well, thanks for calling.
Thanks for answering. I'll call you later.
Call you later. Love ya.
Love ya.
Bye.